Welcome to Full Hands In, Full Hands Out, presented by Tales of the Cocktail Foundation. This is a weekly webinar series interviewing leaders in the hospitality industry. I'm Lou Bank, and I will be the guest moderator today. That means, among other things, I'll be reviewing the questions that you all send in through the chat function of live stream. So if you have questions, please post them there as you think of them. So I run a nonprofit called S.A.C.R.E.D. That's an acronym, stands for Saving Agave for Culture, Recreation, Education, and Development. And we help improve quality of life in the rural Mexican communities where heritage agave spirits are made. Tales of the Cocktail Foundation invited me to put together this session called Agave Saves the World. And I am honored to be joined today by two people from different spectrums of the agave continuum, each of whom is using the desert succulent agave to make the world a better place. So, first up, we have Carmen. I'm going to butcher your name, Carmen. Carmen Villarreal?
Yeah, perfect.
Yes. Success. So first up is Carmen Villarreal, and she's the owner and CEO of Casa San Matias, a family-owned tequila company in the highlands of Jalisco. They make tequila for such brands as Pueblo Viejo, Corazon, Gran Reserva, Rey Sol, and Tahona. And in addition to being named Tequila Producer of the Year in 2017, they are also the first tequila company to be certified as a great place to work and as a top company in Mexico. So Carmen also launched last year a mezcal brand, Los Vecinos, which is how our paths crossed. And it was also through a copita of mezcal that I stumbled across our other guest, Pedro Jimenez. Pedro is the owner of Mezonte. Mezcaloteca co-founder, I should say, Marco Ochoa shared with me a bottle of Pedro's Raicilla, which opened my eyes to the world of heritage agave spirits outside of Oaxaca. That, in essence, I think, is Pedro's mission. Mezonte is a non-governmental organization that promotes, supports, and preserves the production and practices of traditional agave spirits. So Pedro also owns Para de Sufrir, which has been described to me by some of the world's best bartenders as the ultimate party bar. But I've never been there because anytime I've been in Guadalajara, I want to be drinking in the Mezonte tasting room, learning from Pedro about the people and the processes of heritage agave spirits. Welcome, Carmen and Pedro.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you so much, Lou, for this invitation.
Oh, thank you both for joining me. So we only have about 30 minutes today before we open up to questions. So my goal is to give people like a 30,000-foot view of what you both do so that they're tempted to meet you at that ground level for a closer look, either via social media or when this world comes back to traveling again in person. To that end, Carmen, can you tell me how you and Casa San Matias are using agave to save the world, first in terms of your philanthropic work outside of your company, but then also in terms of how you apply your worldview to the management of your company, please.
Thank you, Lou. I would like to share so many things with you. But I will start saying that my dream has been always to build a great company, a company based in values, in a company who cares about community, about the environment, and about the people, the team. All of them with a great tequila, with a great quality tequila. So first, the team is my priority always. And during this stage that has been very difficult things with COVID, the first thing that I have been is protecting the team. And I have been running the company for 23 years now.
Wow.
And always the team has been my priority. I have implemented many programs to feel that I'm close to them and I understand their needs, because some of our coworkers has basic needs still to solve. So starting from there, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. You're saying the team. Can you give me a sense how many people you work with?
Yeah, we are around now like 250.
So that's and that's inclusive of everybody, the distillers and the people who do sales and packaging and
yes, and the agave fields as well.
Oh, okay.
So since I started running the company, I noticed that there are people that they don't know how to read or write. So we started then with programs to provide education to our own coworkers.
Oh, that's remarkable. So you're literally doing education work with your adult workers, like
Yes.
classes that you set up at your factory.
Yeah, that happened like 20 years ago. Now I'm very happy to say that all of us are able to read and write. But
Wow, I'm sorry. I'm just nosy this way. So, are you telling me then that like a lot of those workers from 20, you said 23 years ago?
yes,
So a lot of them,
yes, of course.
so they're still
we
with
have we have generations that work for us, and
you. Wow,
there are people that have been working for 35 years, 40 years,
wow.
more than 20. Yeah, we have been growing all together in this. And I have shared with them that I would love to be an old lady and see them as old as well, but continue together.
Sweet.
But this effort is beyond them. It's also for their families. I'm always interested in in social causes, but my priorities are two: education and anything supported related to women. So we have been providing scholarships for their families when we see that there's potential there, or yeah, we provide scholarships for them. And now the level has been upraised. And the other thing, because I know that Pedro has a lot to share too, but my personal view of how to commit with the causes, and I love the way you see the word, Lou, because we have to commit, and especially now. I think there's so many beautiful causes there. I am personally involved with Casa, Hogar, Alegría. It's a shelter for girls. We have now like 110 girls divided in three shelters,
And,
and
and
yeah.
can you, yeah, maybe you were headed this way anyway, but can you put a fine point on that? Because this is like, this speaks so much to the things that I care about. Yeah, it's funny, after the first time that I think I was speaking to Megan about the work that you do, I happened to be in Portland, Oregon with a friend of mine having a drink. And, and so there were a number of mezcals, and she asked me which one she should order. And there was your bottle, there was Los Vecinos up there, and I started talking about the work that you do with these girls in Guadalajara, and I found myself tearing up, which, like, that absolutely sold your bottle. So like, so can you talk about the programs very specifically, as comfortable as you are talking about them, please?
Yeah, yeah, of course, Lou. Well, the shelter is for girls that have been suffering from abuse, and the government retire them from their homes because their families, they are not able to support them and care them. We
It's what we'd call foster care in essence in our.
Yeah, but this is not a family. Is Yeah, we are a shelter. So the girls come and live with us, and we provide them. Well, we convert in like their families, their moms, their moms and daddies, because we have also a mixed team to provide support. So we provide them all the things that they need: education, a nice place to live, and all the programs, the therapies. We receive them in a very bad conditions. So we require a team of psychiatrists, psychologists, nutritionists, gynecologists, pediatrician,
Wow.
teachers, because normally their level is very, very low in terms of academic level. So it's a whole team that are supporting them, and we have seen them that they start healing their wounds, and they are able to smile. That's our name. It's Casa, Hogar, Alegría, and Alegría means joy. because our dream is to see them smiling, to see them enjoying their lives and developing all the potential that they have.
Oh God, I love that. So can you also explain the work that you do specifically with that program?
Well, I'm the leader of the shelter of Guadalajara, so I'm in charge of all the expenses that they have. And yes, it's my work to coordinate all the efforts with all volunteers and all people that are interested in our cause, and to think of more programs, because our goal and our goal is to open more shelters till the moment that we don't have any girl in our community. Of course, the dream could be in our country, no girl without supervision, without care, without love. So it's challenging, but I think little by little, and I have been thinking for many years, what's the right way or the best way to change our system, our society. And I really believe this is one of the best ideas that I have found, because if you have a girl and that girl grow up healthy, mentally and physically, and her soul is healthy too, she is going to have a healthy families as well.
Yeah, in essence,
So
you break the chain. You break that
yes,
chain of abuse.
it could be a slow process, but it's very effective. It's the only thing. Because as women, and more in Mexico than other countries as your country, in Mexico, women are still receiving a lot of abuse. It's
I would not suggest that Mexico has a higher rate of abuse than the USA. I think in fact, it would be impossible to get the actual numbers, to do the survey, because so much abuse. I think when the average person thinks of child abuse, they're thinking of stranger danger, and the vast majority of abuse takes place in the home or within the circle of trust. And so you never see surveys of these numbers that are accurate. You'll never get an accurate count, because the person that you're asking, the child, right, is usually, you're going to be connecting with that child in front of the abuser. So you're never going to get an honest answer.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's just I believe that you are like ahead of us in 50 years maybe, all the rise. And I share I used to travel a lot to the US. I hope I can be travel again soon. But my colleagues from S.A.C.R.E.D, our reporters, I know them very well, and I notice differences. I think the women in the US are more secure, are more confident themselves, and we are still working on that. So for us, our girls need to build that too. So when they become adults, they don't allow anyone to abuse them, anyone. So the confidence that they need to have is high. So in this world.
So you alluded to something, and then you stepped away from it, and I'm thinking it's because you're humble, and I don't want to let you get away with that. You had said that you are responsible for paying for everything, and I want to know what that means. Are you you're not literally taking the money out of your pocket? You're going and you're trying to get donations to cover all of the expenses, right?
Yes, well, it's a mix of everything, depending on the stage of we are. Nowadays, as this COVID crisis that we are suffering, all of us, it's more challenging. So it's if we need to take money from our pockets, it's fine.
Right.
The purpose is that the children, the girls, receive what they need.
Yep. So I want to go pre-COVID with this part of the question then, if I may. Did you find when you would go knocking on doors to get money, I'm guessing you're going to companies and asking companies as opposed to individuals? Yeah.
Yeah, we have different programs, and we we always take San Matias as like an experiment of all our programs. So we have, for example, a program that is, Pedro, do you know the name for nomina? Like the paycheck, the paycheck that we receive like every month. I'm sorry, I didn't let you answer my question, but we go to the company and we present the home shelter to all the employees of the company.
Oh,
and we yeah and then we ask them, if you want to donate, could be like $1 per month, $2 per month, it's fine, whatever it's the amount of money that person is able to donate, it's important. But when you have a company with 1,000 employees and each one of them donate $1,
yeah.
so you have a great amount. So it's very easy because in their paychecks they include the donation.
So it just comes automatically out of the paycheck. Yeah.
So we can ask for the team of the companies, all the employees, and of course the owner of the CEO of the company. So we have been asking for like parties with cause, and we have been having 2 weddings that the bride and the groom, instead of gifts, they say, okay, I'm going to donate. If you want to give me something, it could be a donation for Casa, Hogar, Alegría.
Oh,
and other programs. So we have applied to all there are foundations that offer support. So we apply to each one of them that we see, international or national.
Mm-hmm.
And we are always searching for things that can help. I have a celebrity on my side now to ask him for support. So I'm always looking for ideas.
You're asking the celebrity?
Did we want to build? Sorry?
You ask the celebrity for money, or the celebrity asks for money for Casa, Hogar?
No, I ask him.
You ask the celebrity for money, and you're not naming the celebrity. Is that because we wouldn't know who he is or she is, or what? Are you being coy?
No, I prefer to keep it private for the moment. Okay. Yeah, because he hasn't answered yes. So okay, so he's thinking But we have received support, for example, from the foundation of Mark Anthony, Maestro Cares, Mark Anthony, the singer. Mm-hmm. They are so generous. So Henry Cardenas and Mark Anthony and the Maestro Cares group has been supporting us a lot. So there are people that are very generous in the world. So we try to connect with them.
And do you find the fact that you run this huge tequila company opens doors for you?
Yes, definitely, yes. I have the chance to talk to groups when I travel to the US, and I have been receiving always a lot of interest in when I talk about Casa Hogar, because I really believe that people have good hearts. It's my opinion. Every one of us has good. It's just that sometimes you don't know which cause or how to donate money. It's like we need to connect. That's why it's important to present the program. And
we just got a question, I think, that is exactly to this point from Adrian Stoner here in Chicago. Hi, Adrian. Asking how folks in the U.S. can help support this organization. Is there a website where they can make donations?
Thank you. Yes, we have. And I'm sorry, I will. In the meantime, Pedro is talking. I can chat and put the information that you need. But there is a very easy way for you in the U.S. to donate money through this organization to Mexico.
Beautiful. I find when I'm doing my tasting events, I don't even bring up the cause or the things that we do, and I don't ask for any donations until the end of the event, when everybody's had all 9 of their copitas of agave spirits, at which point suddenly wallets just open up magically at the end of the event.
Good strategy. Thank you for sharing.
De nada, that one's free.
Thank you.
So, anything else you want to add, or?
Well, I think Pedro needs his time. Thank you so much, Lou.
Very
Okay.
interesting of hearing more about that.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
Thank
I
you.
didn't mention this, but you're both in Guadalajara. So yeah, but coincidentally, I took two charitable agave related people, and there you are in Guadalajara. So once all of this clears up, I'll come down. The three of us can have a drink and talk through more detail. But
Please.
But for now, Pedro, let's talk about Mezonte. So your objective is to preserve this specific cultural heritage in rural Mexico, and your strategy, if I'm understanding correctly, is to do so by literally bottling and selling the liquid artifact of that heritage to get people to sit up and take notice. And it certainly worked with me. I sat up and take notice, and it's why, honestly, I came to Guadalajara the first time. My friend Ismael grew up in Guadalajara, and he'd been asking and asking and asking me to join him there. And it was just finally my obsession with your spirits where I wanted to go, and I wanted to sit and learn from you and drink with you. So do you see signs besides, outside of me as an example, do you see signs that your strategy is working?
Well, I think it's you see it that in how the producers that we work with are improving themselves in their own way, their way of living, their way of working, and it's been really amazing to see how people are very, even if they have small or more or bigger amounts of possibilities, even if they start using those resources for education purposes, for rebuilding their working places or whatever, you can see that something is moving. And specifically in these times, it's just like, I think I was very interested in the title of this webinar about Agave Saves the World. And I think, Carmen, also, it's kind of like the same strategy that I would say that is going to in a very personal level. If you can change a thing from a very personal aspect, then you start growing from that particular person into his family, into his community or her community, and then start changing the whole ideology and system of how to approach things. And I think that's how you perceive, like, if it's successful or not. It doesn't really mean about having more money or anything like that. It's to have a more balanced and harmonic type of community in these places where they are producing these spirits. So I think that's probably the best sign that people are more encouraging to do more things and to start believing in what they do and loving that, because at certain point when we start to approach some producers, they wouldn't even believe in what they were doing. I mean, they were already in this flow of, well, we do it because we've always done it, and it doesn't.
I'm sorry, Pedro. Can you give me some perspective on what you said when you started approaching them? Can you give me an idea of when that was? Are we talking 10 years ago?
Around 12.
12 years ago.
Between 12, 13, and well, we've continued to be in contact with more producers, and probably the latest ones were a year ago or so, but most of them, it's over a decade.
And so a decade ago, as recently as a decade ago, they were humble or shy about what they're doing?
Yeah, some of them, they weren't even like happy, or they were afraid of showing you what they were producing. I mean, they literally asked us, like, from a 2-hour drive from here, from Guadalajara, they would ask us, like, hey, did you really come all this way here to taste this? And I was like, hell yeah, of course. Of course.
So now you've seen over this decade of working with those individuals that they're more proud of what they're doing, and as a result, they're putting. Am I following you? They're putting resources into their families and into their communities.
Yeah, totally. I mean, they've been I mean, and it's not only through us that they've been having access to information. There's been a whole team and network of biologists, agronomists, anthropologists, you name them. I mean, this has been a whole teamwork of different organizations or individuals that they've been giving information to these producers, not telling them what to do, but giving them information of what other experiences from other producers or other projects have done, and they have succeeded or they have failed through that, and they make their own decisions on what do they want to do with that. So it's just like we've been like a link, a bridge for different stuff. I mean, not only for bottling and selling their spirits, but also to give people the information of those little communities and their culture behind all of these spirits. And on the other way, bringing this information that we have access to, like from agronomists, biologists, like salespeople, everything, to let them know what's happening out there, so they can have their own decisions on what they want to do with their communities and with their spirits.
You know, one of the things that I hear a lot when I'm visiting Oaxaca specifically is that there's a concern about this next generation of mezcaleros, of the children of the men and the women who are making these spirits now. Are they going to continue the traditions? So what are you seeing in that area in the communities that you visit?
Well, every time it's more and more that they are going to continue the tradition. Maybe at the beginning, there wasn't hope, actually. I mean, a lot of people, like young people, were migrating most of the time to the States. Others had more unfortunate destinies and joined cartels or any other way of making easy living, easy money. But suddenly, when people start to acknowledging the value and the not only like monetary value but cultural aspect value, and start paying a little bit better, not even what they actually deserve for preserving all of this and having all this beautiful and long-term heritage, they started to see a possibility of making money out of it and to have a pride in the sense of what they're doing, and not only looking for buying some new sneakers or anything like that. So they're revaluing their own values. So it's beautiful.
So, you know, what I'm hearing and what you just said, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Pedro, but if I'm hearing you correctly, this global interest in these heritage agave spirits, in some way at least, is keeping families together in rural Mexico. Yeah?
It is, and it's both. I mean, it's nationally and internationally. They've been both growing at the same time. Probably the national in an early stage, and now internationally. But obviously, when people are selling internationally, there's a bigger possibility for families to have maybe it's the same amount of money of a year, but they have it, for example, in just one exportation. So they can't use that inversion in just a single thing that they didn't have that money at that time, because it was through the whole year. So it's different ways of working that give them different possibilities to choose from. So, but yeah, I think what's most important is that they are still having their values where they should. I mean, into their culture, into their communities, into having access for people in those communities to their products and not selling all of it to foreign people. And I mean foreign from not only from outside of Mexico, but outside of their communities, because it's been a trend. So it's very easy for people to go there and buy everything from them and just take it away and live in the community without a single drop of mezcal or raicilla or whatever agave spirit you choose. And they've been continuing with that practices and like having being more proud of what they do because now they see that more people appreciate it, and they kind of like look back and say like, well, yeah, this is really great. Some of them, they've always think that, but most of them, at least the ones that we work with, or the ones that I've met, they weren't that proud of what they were doing. So it's been better.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think that's a universal thing that you're never. I think the saying is you're never a prophet in your own hometown. And I think if you're surrounded by people who remind you that you're just a regular person and what you're doing is, what everybody's doing. It's one of my frustrations is I go down to visit these producers. And the first thing they want to talk about is, and this is specific to Oaxaca, but the first thing they want to talk about is, where did you just come from? And then they almost always say, oh yeah, well, we don't use chemicals here. As though they're like the other time. And they compare themselves to each other, when I think the fascinating point of these spirits is comparing it to what's being done everywhere else in the world. Right? It's so unique that you've got, even when you're talking about the industrial side of the spirits, the vast majority, not all of them, but the vast majority of the industrial ways of making the spirits are still less industrial than most things that we consume.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I can tell that you're trying to say something, Carmen, but you're muted. So you have to, I think, there you go.
Thank you. I just say that I agree. And you have Oaxaca many times as Pedro, but probably for our audience, you need to explain how is Oaxaca? How are the communities there? Because there are people there that have been in other places, just their community.
I'm sorry, when you say how it is in Oaxaca, do you mean what they do there, or do you mean how this virus?
How's the state? How's the the communities there that they live in the middle of nowhere, without Wi-Fi, without anything?
Yeah. Pedro.
Well, it's not only Oaxaca.
In Jalisco as well.
We have same things, and in Durango, Guerrero, Michoacán, everywhere that you point out a place where these rural communities that are working in that way, it's very different. It's a different reality. You can see it right now with this COVID thing that we were talking about it the other day. It's just like that. They're living a different reality, and they're living it in a different sense because they are very close. They are very isolated from different things, and they have their own ways of dealing with this type of pandemic situation. But I think it's an example that we should look out to, because they have more control in these situations than all of us, that were always in a sense of depending on other things to happen for us to have food, to have clothes, to have any type of fuel or whatever. They've been doing it without that their whole lives, so they know how to manage that. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect to them, because it does, but the way that they don't enter in this situation of crisis, and they don't know what to do, and they're not stressed like us inside our houses, and they're going out of their houses and they're doing their daily life just like any other time. And even if they got sick, they just develop their immunity bodies, and they're kind of like, well, yeah, we had a rough time, but we're over it, and let's move to the next thing. I think it's a perfect example of how to look up to them in that sense of how they perceive life and how they perceive problems.
Yeah, I completely agree, and this sort of ties into the conversation the three of us were having a few days ago, right? Where you said some of these communities, they're like, they don't realize that this is even going on because they're so insular. They're using their spirits that they make to trade for the tomatoes and the meat that they need. And while I don't think I could ever live that life, I think there is something to be learned in that kind of small community of self-sufficiency.
Totally. I think it's a lot of how to make your priorities. I mean, to see what you're dedicating your time and your energy to, and if it's the correct thing to do. I mean, everyone will have their own correct thing to work for. But I think in this type of crisis, it's what brings out of every one of us, like what you really made out of, like what you're made of. And they're made of working the lands, knowing the cycles of natural processes, and knowing how to make their own food, how to hunt, how to distill spirits and make a party and have everyone invited into their communities without any kind of restrictions, like authority restrictions. Actually, the authorities in those little communities are part of the celebration because they're living their whole balanced life in that community. They don't need to go outside and have a lot of things to have this whole life.
And it's also remarkable to me that Carmen, you're experiencing while you're not experiencing the same level that I'm hearing from Pedro, you still are operating, right? You still you're receiving orders and you're making tequila and shipping it up to the U.S., right?
Yeah, that's right.
Like, that's remarkable to me because I'm talking to so many friends who have small distilleries here in the U.S. who are really struggling because with all the bars and restaurants primarily shut down, certainly not in full service, they're having a hard go of it. So, I'm really curious, the tequila that you're making now, is it primarily being exported or is it being primarily sold locally, or how are you doing that?
This stage during COVID, it's primarily for export to the U.S. Mexico is locked down, the same as you have suffered, but our restrictions are even higher. So we have lost practically all sales domestic. The liquor stores are closed.
Oh.
And just the supermarkets that are able to sell alcohol. But there's some states that declare how do you say, Pedro, ley seca?
Dry law? Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Like kind of prohibition.
Yeah, prohibition. There are some states, Jalisco no, but there are other states in the country. So we are working now really more for the U.S. and our brands are strong in our domestic market. It is that all restaurants and bars and liquor stores are closed.
Wow. Okay, I didn't realize that. I just keep seeing pictures sent up from my friends down in Mexico, and they always have a bottle of alcohol on hand. But I'm guessing it's just they're breaking into their stashes, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
So let's talk for a bit. We've got like 7 minutes left. Let's talk a bit about how you guys came to Agave Spirits. I'm guessing, Carmen, that this is like your family story, right?
Yeah, well, my first husband passed in 1997. And
sorry.
Thank you. And I decided to take over the company then. Well, after a few months of my grieving process, of course, but I needed to something else in my life to have like meaning. And I have found in San Matias it's very rewarding. My job is very rewarding. I love the people.
So you married into tequila? Is that? Oh, that's interesting. So what did your family do? What did your family do growing up?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. I'm sorry. What kind of work did your family do while you were growing up? I mean, you're running this huge company, so I just assumed that you grew up within the family, watching how it was being run.
No. I was. My father was on sales in big companies, and we moved in 5 different cities in my elementary school. So I was always the new girl in the classroom, but I learned how to adapt very easily. And my parents always look for the place where we can have education, like the best universities. So then we decided to establish in Guadalajara. Well, they decided. I was 13 years old. I felt like I was deciding, but no, my parents decided. And we established here. I have 3 sisters and 1 brother, and we all live here.
Oh, no.
So I went to college here, and I consider a person that like to explore, and I consider myself intelligent. So I had a beautiful marriage with Jesus, my husband, and he shared with me so many things about the company. So I was like familiar with that, even with the team.
Nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Pedro, how did you come to Agave?
Well, it was on a very early stage of my life. I was probably like 15, and it was in a trip to Oaxaca, specifically to Mitla. And I've already been to that archaeological site, and I was on a trip with my parents, and they just walk around through the Mitla archaeology site, and I just get ahead and cross the street. It was this mezcal store, and they had like from cremas de mezcal to
I just want to repeat the fact you're 15 years old doing this.
Yeah, in Oaxaca it doesn't really matter.
But it doesn't in Jalisco. There is a drinking age in Jalisco.
No, in the whole country of Mexico, you can't drink before 18. But if you're in Oaxaca and you are drinking mezcal, it's okay. I mean, it's just like here. It's the same thing. I mean, you see in the towns near Tequila, or in the towns like southern Jalisco, or if you go to the coast, you see parents putting their fingers with tequila or raicilla or mezcal into their glums of their childs while they're teething, because it's part of their culture.
But so 15-year-old Pedro tastes a crema. Yeah. Is that like literally that sent you off in a direction of trying to learn more about it instead of just getting drunk at 15?
I did get drunk that time. I mean, I tried like 14 different types of mezcal, obviously like even like less than half an ounce, because this guy was just pouring me to taste a little bit, some drops. And I don't know what I tried. I probably drank different, either the worst mezcales, the cremas that I don't really like, and probably some good mezcales, but it was a different experience. And every time that I came back to a certain type of mezcal, and then in my profession that it's filmmaking, doing documentaries or anything like across Mexico, every time that I was out, I was asking for what type of agave spirit do you have here, and try to talk to the producer and taste everything, and it was always a different experience in difference of any other type of spirit. I've drank different spirits, like I don't know, you know the regular ones, but still, I mean, every time that I had a cup, and not even drunk with mezcal, sometimes yes, but sometimes just like sipping, and it was like, oh, this is different. So I fell in love with mezcal, and that's why a lot of people, when we opened Paredes Sufrir here in Guadalajara, it's like, well, you already have the license for a bar. Why don't you put in some whiskey and rum and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I'm not interested. I didn't fall in love with that. I fell in love with mezcales. So it's just because of that. I'm not interested in making business out of it. It's just like because I love that.
That's beautiful. Okay, folks, I think we're a wrap here. We've got less than 2 minutes left, and I've got this block of text that I need to read. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the Tales of the Cocktail Foundation for giving us this forum to talk about our causes. I want to thank both of you, Carmen and Pedro, for the work that you do and for sharing your time today. And thanks, of course, to everybody who's watching now and who will watch in the future. I know that the Tales of the Cocktail Foundation will be posting the archive of this conversation to their YouTube page and to their website. And both of those are great resources for folks in the hospitality industry. I'll also be posting a link to it once it's live on the S.A.C.R.E.D social media pages and tagging both of you guys. So if anyone needs help finding this, there is a shortcut solution. So next week is Memorial Day, which just shocks the heck out of me. So there won't be any programming. I don't know how it got to be Memorial Day so quickly. but there won't be any programming for this show, Full Hands In, Full Heads Out, next week. But the following week, they're going to welcome some guests from Paris to talk about how things look here. So thank you again, Carmen and Pedro.
You're very welcome.
And I hope to have a drink with you in person very soon.
Me too. Me too.
Gracias.
Bye to everyone. Thank you very much.
Bye.